Okay, imagine this. You decide to get just 1% better at something. Anything, really. Every single day.
Sounds tiny.
It is. On the surface, it's almost invisible. You wouldn't even notice it.
But it adds up.
Oh, it does more than add up. If you compound that tiny gain over a year, you don't just get a bit better. The math is, well, it's staggering. You end up nearly 37 times better.
37 times.
Exactly. That's the extreme invisible power we're talking about. So the real question for you listening is, are your daily systems designed to actually leverage that growth, or are they quietly working against you?
And that staggering idea is precisely the jumping off point for James Clear's work, which it's really become the modern benchmark for behavior change.
And we are launching into a huge deep dive into that book today. We're trying something new here, an extended summary. So unlike our previous review, which was more of a focused analysis, this is a comprehensive overview.
We'll be tracing the intellectual roots, the key arguments, and the real-world impact of the book.
Yeah, and if you appreciate this expanded format, please let us know. Your feedback is really going to help shape what we do in the future.
So we're dissecting atomic habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones.
Yeah.
From 2018, it blends psychology, neuroscience, and these really practical case studies into an incredibly structured guide.
And just as a quick note for everyone, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation. It's powered by Google's Notebook LM, and it's designed for deeper, more dynamic summaries like this one.
The core idea, like you said, is that these tiny atomic improvements compound into huge results. But, and this is the key, to tap into that power, the book says we have to make a critical conceptual pivot.
Okay, let's unpack that pivot. This is where it goes beyond just, basic self-help advice. The book wants us to move from focusing on goals to focusing on systems. Why is that so important?
It's crucial because goals are just outcomes. They're the finish line. Systems are the actual processes that get you there. And Clear's big insight is this. You fall to the level of your systems. You don't rise to the level of your goals.
I love that line.
It's so true. Think about it. Everyone in a race has the same goal to win. But it's the system of training and nutrition they follow day in and day out that actually determines who wins.
I think so many people can relate to setting a huge New Year's goal, like, I'm going to write a novel, and you're motivated for maybe a week, and then it just fizzles out.
And the book has a name for that feeling of frustration. It's called the plateau of latent potential.
Ah, yes.
Absolutely. It explains why people quit. You put in all this effort, you're doing the work, but the results, they lag behind for weeks, sometimes months.
You're pouring energy in, but the scale isn't moving or the page is still blank.
Exactly. And because we crave that immediate feedback, we get frustrated and think this isn't working, when really the effort is just being stored.
It's like heating ice. The energy goes in and in, but the temperature stays at 32 degrees until suddenly it hits a threshold and melts all at once. The work wasn't wasted. It was just hidden.
Which leads right into the most fundamental shift in the whole book, moving from outcomes to identity.
Okay.
The argument is that just changing what you do isn't enough. You have to change who you are. This is the whole idea of identity-based habits.
This is so compelling. So instead of, I want to run a marathon, the focus becomes,
I am a runner.
I am a runner. How does that actually work on a behavioral level?
Well, every single action you take is like a vote for the kind of person you want to become.
A vote. I like that.
So if you write one sentence today, that's a vote for being a writer. If you skip the gym, that's a vote for being a non-athlete. Over time, all these votes add up, and they define your identity. And then your identity reinforces the habits.
So the question changes. It's not what result do I want?
Who is the type of person who gets this result?
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The goal isn't just to write a bestseller. It's to become the kind of person who lights every single day. The win is in confirming that identity.
Exactly. When your actions confirm your self-image, the habit stops being a chore you have to do. It just becomes part of who you are.
So to structure all these votes, the book breaks down every behavior into a cycle, right? The four-step habit loop.
That's the framework for everything. It starts with the cue, which is the trigger.
Okay, the cue. Then that leads to the craving. That's the motivation, the desire.
Right. And after the craving comes the response, the actual habit itself.
And finally, the reward. That's the benefit that satisfies the craving and tells your brain, hey, let's do that again.
And the whole system of the book is built around giving us a specific law for hacking each of those four steps.
So let's start with the first one. For the cue, make it obvious.
This is all about fighting against our unconscious behaviors. We do so many things on autopilot.
Like grabbing your phone the second you're bored.
Exactly. So the first tool is the habit scorecard. You literally list your daily routines and label them, positive, negative, or neutral. It forces you to become aware.
I tried that, and honestly, it was shocking. I realized half my day was these neutral habits that were actually just draining my time and energy.
It's hard to be honest about them. But once you have that awareness, you can use what he calls implementation intentions.
This is the formula, right? I will do behavior at time and location.
Yes. It takes a vague idea like, I should meditate, and makes it concrete.
I will meditate for 10 minutes at 7:30 a.m. in my living room.
Yeah.
There's no ambiguity.
And that structure lets you do the next thing, which is habit stacking. You attach a new habit to one you already do. After current habit, I will new habit.
So after I pour my morning coffee, I'll read one page of a book.
You're riding the momentum of an existing routine.
And a huge part of law number 1 is environment design. Our physical space often dictates our actions more than we realize.
Oh, absolutely. The book uses that great example of the hospital cafeteria just by putting water bottles at eye level and soda in less convenient spots.
Water consumption went way up without anyone having to use willpower. We just follow the path of least resistance. So for bad habits, you do the opposite. You make them invisible. Hide the junk food. Put the TV remote in a drawer in another room.
Increase the friction. Which brings us to the second part of the loop, the craving, and the second law.
Yeah.
Make it attractive. This is about our motivation.
And this is where he talks about dopamine, which I found fascinating.
It is fascinating. Most people think dopamine is the reward chemical, but it's not. It's released in anticipation of a reward.
It's the wanting, not the having.
Precisely. We're addicted to the prediction, the craving we feel right before we act.
So the goal isn't just to make the habit itself fun, but to make the anticipation of it attractive. How do we do that?
The main strategy is temptation bundling. You link an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
Right, like only allowing yourself to watch your favorite Netflix show while you're on the treadmill.
Yes. You start to crave the treadmill because you associate it with the show.
And Law 2 also talks a lot about social influence, how much our peers affect what we find attractive.
Immensely. We are wired to fit in. So if the behavior is normal or praised in your social group, it becomes way more appealing.
So if you want to get fit, join a running club. If everyone around you is doing it, it stops feeling like a chore and just becomes the norm.
Exactly. You adopt the habits of the tribe. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of actually doing the habit, we should pause for a moment.
Good idea.
We wanted to suggest checking out the Mindful Moments YouTube channel. It offers AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques.
It's a great way to inspire that kind of rational thought we talk about, and it's especially valuable for aspiring authors who want to understand structure and theme.
So moving on to law number 3, which is about the response itself. Make it easy.
This one feels so intuitive. Friction kills action.
He calls it the law of least effort.
Oh.
Our brains are wired to conserve energy. So no matter how motivated you are, if a habit is hard to do, you probably won't do it for long.
You have to lower the activation energy.
Which brings us to the famous 2-minute rule.
Yes. Scale any new habit down so it can be done in 2 minutes or less.
And this is the part people misunderstand. The point isn't to only meditate for 2 minutes forever.
No, the point is that the ritual of starting has to be so easy you can't say no. Read one page, put on your running shoes, open the document.
It's a gateway habit. It gets you past the inertia.
And again, we can prime the environment to make the response easy. Lay out your gym clothes the night before. Put your guitar on a stand in the middle of the room, not in its case in the closet.
And the inverse for bad habits. Add friction. He gives that great example of freezing your credit card in a block of ice if you're trying to stop impulse shopping online.
It doesn't make it impossible, but that 10 minutes of waiting for it to thaw is often enough for the urge to pass.
So that brings us to the end of the loop, the reward. The 4th law, make it satisfying.
And this law tackles the biggest problem with good habits, which is that the payoff is often delayed.
Right. Our brains are wired for immediate gratification. I exercise today, but the benefit is months away. It's hard to stay motivated.
So we need to find a way to get a little win right now.
That's where immediate reinforcement comes in. Things like habit tracking, making a big X on the calendar, or that paperclip strategy.
Oh, the paperclip strategy. Explain that.
You have 2 jars, one full of paper clips, one empty. Every time you complete the task, say making one sales call, you move one paper clip over.
So you get this immediate, visible signal of progress.
Exactly. That little action gives you a tiny hit of dopamine. It's a reward that closes the loop and keeps you going until the long-term results show up.
And for bad habits, you make them immediately unsatisfying through accountability.
A habit contract with a friend, or a financial penalty if you slip up. The social cost or the monetary cost makes the bad habit painful right now.
So those are the 4 laws that get you started. But the book also has these advanced tactics for really achieving mastery. The first one is the Goldilocks rule.
Right. We stay motivated when a task is right on the edge of our abilities. Not too easy, because then we get bored.
And not too hard, because then we get discouraged.
It has to be just right, which means you constantly have to adjust and increase the difficulty as you get better to stay engaged.
And that leads into the hardest part for any high performer, battling boredom.
The book is very clear on this. The pros, the Olympic athletes, the top artists, they all get to a point where the work is repetitive.
It's tedious.
Yes. And the difference between an amateur and a professional is the ability to show up and do the work even when you're bored. Mastery is about falling in love with the process, not just the outcome.
And finally, he closes with the need for periodic review. You have to reflect on your systems to make sure they're still serving you.
It's not about a huge overhaul. It's about those tiny 1% tweaks to keep you in that Goldilocks zone and keep compounding those gains year after year.
It's clear why Atomic Habits has had such a massive impact. It's sold millions of copies. It's been on the bestseller list for years. It has really reshaped how people think about personal development.
It has. It reinforces that core message.
Yeah.
Small, consistent actions in a good system will always beat raw willpower.
This book isn't about defining your destiny. It's about designing your process.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you. A bit of a provocative one. Which daily action are you taking right now that serves as a secret vote for the person you least want to become?
Click the link on screen for the in-depth book critique. Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and think rationally.
See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.